The ground beneath your feet is trembling. You stand in a street paved with volcanic stone, surrounded by walls painted in deep reds and golden yellows. The smell of fresh bread drifts from a bakery nearby. A merchant shouts prices for olive oil. Children chase each other past a fountain where crystal clear water flows endlessly from a bronze spout shaped like a lioness head. This is Pompeii in the summer of the year 79 A.D. This is a city that has no idea it is living its final days. Now close your eyes. Open them again. The same street lies before you, but everything has changed. The walls are crumbled. The fountain is silent. The bakery stands frozen in time, loaves of bread still in its oven, carbonized and black. The children are gone. The merchant is gone. The entire city lies beneath a blanket of ash nearly 20 feet deep. This is Pompeii after. This is what remains when a mountain decides to breathe fire. For nearly 2,000 years, this Roman city has haunted the human imagination. Today, with the power of artificial intelligence, we can do something no previous generation could accomplish. We can rebuild Pompeii stone by stone. We can restore the colors that time has stolen. We can walk through streets that existed before emperors fell and empires crumbled. We can see what was, understand what happened, and witness how modern technology is resurrecting an ancient world. This is the story of Pompeii before the disaster and after the rediscovery. This is a tale of life, death, and digital resurrection. Long before the catastrophe, long before anyone understood the danger sleeping in the mountain above them, Pompeii was simply a prosperous Roman town enjoying the warm Mediterranean sun. The city sat in the shadow of Mount Vesuvius, a peak so fertile and green that farmers planted vineyards along its slopes. Nobody feared the mountain. In fact, they loved it. The volcanic soil produced grapes that made some of the finest wine in the empire. The gentle giant, as some called it, was a blessing, not a threat. The origins of Pompeii stretch back centuries before Rome ever conquered it. Greek settlers and local Italian tribes built the earliest version of this settlement around the 7th century B.C. It changed hands multiple times, passing through Etruscan influence, Samnite control, and finally becoming a Roman colony in 80 B.C. after a siege by the general Sulla. By the time of the 1st century A.D., Pompeii had flourished into a thriving city of perhaps 15,000 souls, a busy commercial hub where merchants traded goods from across the Mediterranean world. If you could have walked through Pompeii in its golden age, you would have found a city bursting with energy and ambition. The main forum served as the beating heart of public life, a rectangular plaza surrounded by temples, government buildings, and covered markets. Here, politicians delivered speeches beneath marble columns. Here, priests made offerings to Jupiter, Apollo, and Venus. Here, ordinary citizens gathered to gossip, argue, and conduct the endless business of daily existence. The streets of Pompeii followed a precise grid pattern, lined with stepping stones that allowed pedestrians to cross without getting their feet wet from the water that flowed through the roads, carrying waste away from the city. Shops opened directly onto these streets, their wooden shutters folding upward to display everything from pottery to perfume. Taverns called thermopolia served hot food and wine to workers and travelers, their counters embedded with large jars containing stews, soups, and preserved fruits. Pompeians built their homes with remarkable sophistication. Wealthy families lived in sprawling houses organized around central courtyards open to the sky. Rainwater collected in shallow pools called impluvia, reflecting sunlight into shadowy rooms decorated with intricate frescoes. These paintings depicted scenes from mythology, landscapes of imaginary gardens, and portraits of the families who lived within. The colors were extraordinary, deep crimson backgrounds that archaeologists would later call Pompeian red, bright blues made from precious Egyptian pigments, and vibrant yellows that seemed to capture sunshine itself. For centuries, scholars could only imagine how vivid these colors once appeared. The frescoes that survived burial had faded, their pigments dulled by time and exposure. But now, artificial intelligence is changing everything. Using machine learning algorithms trained on countless ancient artworks and understanding of Roman pigment chemistry, researchers can digitally restore these paintings to their original brilliance. Walls that appeared washed out and ghostly in photographs now explode with saturated color in AI reconstructions. We can finally see Pompeii not as a ruin, but as the living space it once was. Beyond the wealthy districts, ordinary Pompeians lived in smaller apartments stacked above shops or clustered in modest dwellings along narrower streets. These were the bakers, the fullers, who cleaned clothes using human urine as a cleaning agent, the gladiators who trained in the city's barracks, and the enslaved people who made up perhaps a third of the population. Slavery was woven into every aspect of Roman society, from households to farms to the great construction projects that shaped the empire. In Pompeii, as everywhere in the ancient world, the comfort of some depended on the labor of many who had no freedom. Entertainment was essential to Pompeian life. The city boasted an amphitheater that could seat 20,000 spectators, one of the earliest permanent stone amphitheaters ever built. Here, crowds gathered to watch gladiatorial combat, animal hunts, and public executions. The theater district offered different pleasures, staging comedies, tragedies, and musical performances in semicircular venues designed for perfect acoustics. Bath complexes provided not just hygiene but socialization, with hot rooms, cold plunge pools, exercise yards, and libraries where citizens could spend entire afternoons in leisurely conversation. AI visualization has allowed us to reconstruct these spaces in stunning detail. Using photogrammetry, laser scanning, and neural networks, researchers have built digital models of the amphitheater filled with cheering spectators, the forum crowded with merchants and shoppers, and the baths steaming with heated water. These reconstructions are not mere artistic imagination. They are based on archaeological evidence, ancient texts, and computational analysis of thousands of fragments. The AI does not guess. It calculates, predicts, and fills in gaps using patterns learned from the entire corpus of Roman material culture. In the years before the eruption, something strange was happening in Pompeii. In 62 AD, a powerful earthquake struck the region, toppling columns, cracking walls, and damaging many public buildings. The city began to rebuild, but progress was slow. When Vesuvius finally erupted 17 years later, construction scaffolding still stood in the forum. Some buildings remained half-repaired. It was as if the earthquake had been a warning that nobody quite understood. Imagine a bustling Roman city, alive with the sounds of merchants hawking their wares, children playing in the streets, and friends laughing in grand villas. This was Pompeii, a thriving port city nestled in the shadow of a seemingly gentle giant, Mount Vesuvius. For centuries, the people of Pompeii lived prosperous lives, unaware that the mountain they so admired was a ticking time bomb. The year is 79 AD. Life in Pompeii is vibrant. Its streets are paved, its public buildings are magnificent, and its homes are adorned with stunning frescoes and intricate mosaics. The city had a sophisticated water system, bustling markets, a grand amphitheater for gladiatorial games, and numerous temples dedicated to Roman gods. People went about their daily routines, baking bread, attending the public baths, and conducting business in the forum. They had no reason to believe their world was about to end. They were so accustomed to the earth's occasional tremors that they barely paid them any mind. Small earthquakes were common in the region of Campania. In fact, a major earthquake had struck the city 17 years earlier in 62 AD, causing significant damage. But the resilient Pompeians had rebuilt, making their city even more splendid than before. They saw these quakes as just another part of life, not as a warning sign of a much greater catastrophe. Then came that fateful day in late August, or perhaps October, as recent evidence suggests. Around midday, Mount Vesuvius roared to life with an earth-shattering explosion. It wasn't a lava flow, not at first. Instead, a colossal column of superheated gas, ash, and pumice stone was blasted miles into the sky, creating a terrifying, mushroom-shaped cloud that blotted out the sun and plunged Pompeii into darkness. Panic erupted. The air filled with falling debris. Light, porous pumice stones, some as large as your fist, rained down on the city, piling up at an astonishing rate of several inches per hour. Roofs began to collapse under the immense weight. The air grew thick with suffocating ash and poisonous gases, making it nearly impossible to breathe. People were faced with a horrific choice: flee or seek shelter. Many tried to escape, heading for the coast in hopes of finding a boat to safety. They clutched their children, their valuables, anything they could carry. Others, terrified of the falling stones or hoping the eruption would soon pass, chose to hide in their homes, cellars, or public buildings. It was a fatal decision. As the hours wore on, the situation grew more dire. The relentless downpour of ash and pumice continued, burying everything. But the worst was yet to come. In the early hours of the next day, the massive column of debris in the sky collapsed under its own weight, triggering a series of pyroclastic surges. These were incredibly fast-moving, superheated avalanches of gas, ash, and rock, with temperatures exceeding several hundred degrees Celsius. The first surge thundered down the slopes of Vesuvius, engulfing the nearby town of Herculaneum and instantly killing anyone in its path. Soon after, subsequent surges reached Pompeii. They raced through the streets at hurricane speeds, incinerating everything and everyone they touched. For those who had survived the initial pumice fall, there was no escape. The intense heat was lethal, ending their lives in a fraction of a second. In less than 24 hours, the once lively city of Pompeii was completely buried under a thick blanket of volcanic material, in some places up to 20 feet deep. It was as if the city had been erased from the face of the earth. Pompeii, along with its inhabitants, was lost to the world, frozen in time at the very moment of its destruction. And so it remained for nearly 1,700 years. Over the centuries, memory of the city faded, becoming little more than a legend. New towns were built on top of the hardened volcanic layers, their residents completely unaware of the perfectly preserved Roman world that lay just beneath their feet. The story of Pompeii's rediscovery begins in the late 16th century, but it wasn't until 1748 that serious excavation work began. As archaeologists carefully dug through the layers of ash and pumice, they were astounded by what they found. It wasn't a ruin in the traditional sense. It was a snapshot of Roman life. They uncovered houses with their furniture and decorations intact. They found loaves of bread, carbonized and hard as rock, still sitting in ovens where bakers had left them. In taverns, they found counters with food containers and coins left behind by fleeing patrons. Graffiti scrawled on walls gave them a direct, unfiltered glimpse into the thoughts, jokes, and politics of ordinary people. It was a time capsule unlike any other. But perhaps the most poignant and haunting discoveries were the voids. As the bodies of the victims decomposed under the ash, they left hollow cavities in the hardened layers. In the 1860s, an ingenious archaeologist named Giuseppe Fiorelli figured out that by pouring liquid plaster into these voids, they could create detailed casts of the people of Pompeii in their final moments. These plaster casts are incredibly powerful. They show us the human tragedy of the eruption with startling clarity. We see a mother clutching her child, a group of people huddled together for protection, a man shielding his face from the coming inferno, and even a dog chained and contorted as it struggled to break free. They are not just artifacts. They are the final, silent testimonies of individuals caught in an unimaginable disaster. They remind us that Pompeii wasn't just a city. It was a community of real people with families, hopes, and dreams, all extinguished in a single day. Today, Pompeii is one of the world's most famous archaeological sites, attracting millions of visitors each year. Walking through its ancient streets is a surreal experience. You can step into a villa and admire a vibrant fresco, walk across the forum where political debates once raged, and sit in the amphitheater where 20,000 spectators once cheered for gladiators. It is the closest we can get to traveling back in time and witnessing the Roman world firsthand. The ongoing excavation and research at Pompeii continue to reveal new secrets. Archaeologists are still uncovering new homes, new frescoes, and new insights into the daily lives of the Pompeians. Advanced technology, like DNA analysis and digital imaging, is helping scientists learn more about their health, their diet, and their origins. The story of Pompeii is a powerful reminder of the fragility of life and the immense power of nature. But it's also a story of preservation and discovery. Thanks to the very catastrophe that destroyed it, Pompeii offers us an unparalleled window into the past, allowing the voices of its people to echo through the millennia. It stands as a timeless and moving monument to a city lost and a civilization found. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this journey back in time as fascinating as I did, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more stories from history. See you next time.